Alright, so thankfully I'm a bit better tonight. If any of you saw the community post, thank you. So I thought it was really cool to see some actual feedback, so thank you especially to those of you who have commented. I say those of you like it wasn't just two, but hell, that, made my night, so thanks. Uh, and yes, I will be, of course, going through those ideas and adding them to my big Google Doc list of the notes I have. Already I have added those two in together, the magic systems and apocalypse settings. I might even go through a bunch of I know I did like your setting as a whole before, if I remember correctly anyway. Or maybe it was like packaged part and parcel with one of the world building ones. Let me take another sip of water. My throat is still a little bit acidic tonight, so I talked with some friends earlier, so hopefully alleviate or prepare my throat for something like that, but um, we'll see. Um, if I have to end early, it'll be upsetting because I actually have a lot to talk about today, with any luck, because there's plenty of fantastical races out there and many angles to consider. Who knows how well I'll do it, but I'm here doing my best. But I have added in the magic systems, and am considering having apocalypse settings be that whole thing as a whole, maybe like a shorter one, maybe like 40 minutes as a result. And because there's a lot to do with that as well. I am currently making apocalypse setting of my own. Here's a sneak peek. My favorite excuse for having an apocalypse setting is solar flares, because it lets me cook all the tech I don't want to deal with. um, but I don't know if I'll have it be its own video or have it be like on settings as a whole. I'll bring up like apocalypse. I'll bring up like spaceship. Maybe go into like fandom scene and talk about like I don't know react fic theaters and um what is like the I haven't read these sorts in ages. It's like a huge like high school thing. I don't like Wattpad shit. Not insulting anyone. I still read Wattpad because hey, I'm big in the fanfic scene. Anyway, another sip of water. It was cool to see feedback. So thank you genuinely from like actually the bottom of my heart. Um, I didn't respond like in the comments. I wanted to, but then forgot. And then by the time I was going to do it again, I was doing this anyway. So I figure this is my acknowledgement of you. Anyway, we're back on Fantasy Races Part 2. Um, After I record these, I don't know how many of you know, because I know I mentioned in some videos, but hey, I don't expect everyone to watch all of these. Fun fact, my advice for watching these is to put them on a second monitor or your phone or something as background noise, because the image will never change. Because I don't have editing software, and I mean, no one's asking me to do that, so I mean, hey, why bother? Um, so I was re-listening to the last one, and whenever I find myself as the person rewatching them, my attention waning, I realize, that's not super great, and I'll try, what's the word? And I'll reconcile? No, whatever. I'll work on my formatting to fix that next time. And which is why I'm back to having the actual notes. So in the description, it should be there, the points I'll cover. Um, so maybe this time it'll be a lot more coherent and it'll flow a lot better, things like that. So we're here. I think this will be one where I actually do like go from it in a list format for once, as opposed to jumping around how I like. So maybe this one will actually be in order. If you've ever been wondering why I don't do it in order, it's because I cannot contain myself. But this is actually pretty easy to go in order, so I might. And we'll try. So we'll start with Gnolls. Now I do know, remember, whatever, considering it wasn't that long ago, that I need to set aside my glasses and stretch my back. You all should do the same. Posture check. Make sure you're keeping good lumbar health. I'm trying to be aware of that myself because my back isn't super great, so I'm trying to. Still couldn't think of the word, so I'm trying to fix that. Um, Remember the last time I talked about Gnolls? More in line with Beastkin as a whole, even though I don't I think Gnolls should usually be a separate point. I also know like the wildcard races, which is what most of this will be on the sorts of wildcard races. I also know that when I was talking about the wildcard races, I got way ahead of myself in terms of like fiddling with my wires, making sure everything's plugged in properly. I got way ahead of myself and just got belligerent and angry at the sorts of players that tend to gravitate towards gnome or goblin. You people need to like be better people, I guess. Uh, and didn't end up talking about Gnolls as much as I would like. As I mentioned last time, Dungeon Deep Dive has a video on Gnolls, and I recommend it because the man's voice is nice and he goes through the lore. Because I assume you're coming whenever someone talks about Gnolls, I usually immediately jump to the tabletop setting because that's where you'll see them the most. And even if not, you can get some ideas and inspiration from there because their lore is actually pretty well made. I actually consider the Gnoll lore pretty like plug and play to any setting, just about. Obviously, if your setting doesn't have deities, you can change that little aspect of their background and have it be like demons or like a cosmic curse or just like they were born wrong or something, whatever you have your settings excuse be. But I think Gnolls are a pretty good like plug and play race as is. I don't think their Gnolls are made to be up on the stage as your protagonist. Given that Gnolls' whole thing is ever cursed to be ever hungry, cannibals, murderers, eating of sentient creatures, hunting them down for sport, primality, and rage, and of course the ever-looming, ever-constant hunger, with a little primal twist to them, which you can add or subtract as you will. I think it's very nice because they are hyena people, and I think it fits their whole aesthetic and vibe. Ugh. Ugh, water. Thank you for being the way you are. Ugh, there we are. And so obviously I'm going to suggest that you use them as your villains because I'm under the assumption that you're using the typical null backstory, background, lore, whatever you want to call it. And they're a pretty good usage of that. If you want like a good excuse as to why they're working with the villain, because they're not always going to be the main villain. Your stories don't always have to be toppling of an entire race. Although in this scenario, I would probably consider them that a mercy from ever constant starvation to the point where you have to eat each other to survive, and even then, like witherlings. Nasty fuckers, huh? But the genocide and all that. Gnolls are, if you want an excuse as to why they're working with the antagonist, because again, they're not always going to be the antagonist of forces as a whole. The easy answer is like mercenaries, right? Gnolls are pretty good for mercenary work, given that they are pretty primed to be hyper aggressive to anyone that is not a Gnoll, and even then, given that they're primed and ready to be that sort of like vicious, tears you apart with nothing more than brute force and maybe like a clumsily made like cleaver machete, oversized cleaver, uh, slightly dulled machete, whatever. They're really good to be this threatening, imposing figure that you might want them to be in your story as a sort of villain or hurdle or enemy. But again, like I mentioned before, they're pretty easy to swap in and out with orcs if you're uncomfortable with using orcs, and I can understand why you would be due to the cultural opinion on usage of orcs in stories, even though I think that's bullshit because, well, I already said before that they were originally, J.R.R. Tolkien and all that, an unflattering representation of Mongols. If I am remembering correctly, they were also, an industrial sort of nation with a sort of brutal cunning, brutal but kind of a brutal, a sort of brutal cunning when it comes to warfare and industrialization, feeding that sort of like economy, constant expansionism, deterioration of nature. It was very clear what their actual point was. It was never supposed to be a caricature or mischaracterization of African Americans or black people as a whole. And then eventually some bright fucking idea, had the bright fucking idea of having orcs be an allegory for oppression faced by black people, and then now we have the uncomfortable topic of, hey, when you add orcs to your story, make sure they're not black stereotypes, because that's not fun, when they were really never supposed to be that, and other shit like that. But hey, just, you know, understand what you're writing and what it can look like from the outside. Get a beta reader, get your friend to read it, have an editor, whatever you need. But we're not talking about orcs, we're talking about gnolls. So if you do still have your hangups with making orcs, because again, you are not the only person reading, and then no matter what I say or what I do or how we go about these things in the future, there will always still be that black mark on the history of orcs because of the constant usage of them as immediately the insert for marginalized group here, and then people being like, hey, stop doing that for valid reasons, but then it went to overcorrection and now it's a whole mess. They just use gnolls. Because to my understanding, maybe I'm very wrong, they don't do that for any sort of race. Nobody so far, from one, at least no one popular so far, which is actually the only thing that matters when you think about it. Kind of sad, isn't it? No one is so far who is popular has done that with gnolls. So they are pretty free and can be used as just brutal savagery to be trash mobs to throw at your enemies. Though, again, I snapped, I don't know if that picked up over the mic. Though, again, I don't think any enemy really, any sentient enemy at least, because gnolls are still sentient, I don't think any sentient enemy deserves to have the title of trash mob that you just obliterate with little to no effort. Your main characters, of course. Because I think the ability to think adds so much to any enemy whatsoever. The ability to box in your characters, flanking maneuvers, strategy, hit and run tactics, ambushes, traps, all of this elevates your race, characters, what have you, above the rank of your common beast or monster, making them a lot more impactful, both in terms of story and in terms of scene, and having them be a genuine, realized threat for your protagonist to overcome. Gnolls are perfect for that because not only do they have the higher thinking capacity, but they also have the ability to be the monster as the story demands, swapping over from someone who can conversate with you, who might be able to be negotiated with, into unthinking, uncaring, unfeeling, frothing monster who wants to tear you apart because you're there, as is necessary. Or you could even have it be like their hunger is sort of cursed, and then you come into like the whole like sympathizing them angle. Not an issue, of course. You can be free to change Null's lore however you like. Not my sort of thing usually, but go ahead. I actually do want to see what you can do with this. And again, they fit any sort of scenario, even if it's not like desert or plains or savanna themed, because they could just be overseas barbarians if you want. Pillaging for whatever reason, usually food, because again, gnolls. But maybe they just want wealth in order to establish themselves as whatever sort of reason you need. But again, predominantly antagonist because of not only the superficial traits, but also the traits if you go in deeper. And whatever backstory and lore you might add onto them. So keeping an open mind, like the whole idea of oh yeah, tribals, right? Shove them over. That's A, don't think like that. B, never underestimate the power of a club. Again, cut to my weapons video. Those things were fucking vicious. It split your skull in two. Never be on the wrong end of a club. That shit's brutal. And when you have a force of hyena people, brute animal strength, terrifying crushing jaw, which means they should absolutely have some sort of mouth weapon, or at least like a helmet design that hooks onto an arm, letting them sink their jaws into that fucker and tear them to pieces in a brutal fashion, emphasizing their already powerful natural build. Like that's some good shit, isn't it? You can do a lot with gnolls, is what I'm trying to tell you. So use them properly. And again, if you want magic, gnolls have that too. Again, we're cutting back into the established D&D lore, but that's mostly fine. It's more of a shamanistic ritual angle. Again, I already mentioned witherlings. What does that mean? It's the idea of It's a bit of self-cannibalization, so you could argue there's some Wendigo influence in there, but then Wendigos are actual, like, I always mention, like, oh, someone says you can't do that, but if you look into it, there's some misunderstandings here and there, and if you do anything with the proper, like, respect of the culture, I think you can do anything. Don't do Wendigos. Just don't do Wendigos, man. Don't bother with it. Um, I think they're very cool. I think the folklore around it is very interesting. Don't do Wendigos. Please don't do Wendigos. Right? It's like a huge. But even if you want the like a magical threat, Gnolls can absolutely still have that, right? Uh, Witherlings are usually self-cannibalized into nothing more than the bones themselves, brought to life by some dark force, i.e., still ever present, ever gnawing, tearing at you from within hunger. Describing hunger like an animal is the greatest tool you can give to hunger because it acts like one. Take it from me, I have an eating disorder. I'd know. Hungry right now, actually. Um, but the hunger still drives the bones forward, and they feel the desire to feast on everything, either puppeted by some sort of shaman or just by hunger itself as now an entity. Almost the reverence of the emptiness could be a nice angle for Gnolls, right? And then you can get the null and then null play, null as in nothing, and they want to reduce all to nothing, true hunger is like proper entropy and all that, or something along those lines. That sounds cool, no? Anyway, but final point is actually like their magic could be a corrupting force, or a bite from them, similar to lycanthropy, could instill upon you a crazed, gnawing hunger, even if you aren't actually hungry. It doesn't like actually make you burn calories, but it could instead make you gorge yourself on nothing but flesh. And then once you're free from it, you probably kill yourself after. Like if I did that, if that happened to me, once I'm conscious, not going to therapy, dude. No therapy can fix this. I'm gone. I wouldn't. I couldn't. Um, so if you're like me, and you hang I'm moving on now. If you're like me and you hang around the writing circles subreddits, you are not the biggest fan of world building, although it has some good stuff. Actually, I'm always harping on about how I think you should. Let me choke down a little bit of bile. How I think you should always give credit to things you see or things you think are cool. Spread around ideas because, we gain nothing from keeping them to ourselves. Um, on the dark world building. Did you remove this post? How do I, am I still, oh, 2 months, that's it, right? Let me see if you have more than just, here we go. Well, you still have the one, that's not bad. Comments. Whatever. Uh, ugh. If you look on it for r/dark world building, it should be easy to find. Ash Winter, capital A, in parentheses, rewritten. I thought it was pretty cool. This little blurb here, it's nice. Yeah, check it out if you like. I don't know. Maybe the person will post some more stuff. I thought it was pretty good. The art there is also very nice. I like the idea of a permanent winter. Shout out to Frostpunk, shout out to the Long Dark, the Quiet Apocalypse. But if you're like me and you hang around the world building, writing subreddits, etc., you're not the biggest fan of world building, but you are a pretty big, keep a close eye on world jerking. Because somehow they have better discourse when it comes to world building and writing than fucking world building does. Because, world building mods, they're something else, man. They're fucking, ugh. Never post there. I don't. I don't post at all, actually. I only commented once ever. Well, twice, actually. Responded to the guy, once he responded to me. I like responding to comments. I still feel bad for not responding to anyone's posts on the community, comments on the community post, but, like, I wanted to go to bed, and then I did. Today's been a lot of sleeping. Uh, then you'll have seen the, like, talk about usage of giants in fantasy stories. It's like the whole, like, first it was, like, mocking, I think, armoring and arming a giant because the resource cost, the cost of training them, the cost to hire them, presumably, the food cost that they would take, and then they're just a huge target for magic and shit like that. And it's fair enough. And then people kept bringing up like the idea of like, well, depending on how you use giants, how their lore works, they could literally just be living artillery designed to be cheap and disposable, because why actually armor and arm your giants when you can just give them a bunch of rocks, and if they die, who cares? Waiting for a new giant to be born is cheaper than, giving them armor and shit like that. I was like, oh, that's actually a cool like idea. And that was what led to me writing in giants for this. So let's actually genuinely get a sip of water. I'm going to pause real quick because my bottle of water is over there and I finished mine over here. So I'll pause very quickly. I'll go grab it and be back. Just in case I grabbed both bottles, in case I finished the one and need the other. That helps a lot. My throat is acid scarred, don't you know? So me doing this as a hobby actually isn't the greatest idea. But I think it's very fun, and it's like my only social outlet, so you guys are stuck with this. Well, I mean, I guess you could stop watching, but I'd be upset. Which, shouldn't matter to you, but still. I'm looking for my phone. Have you guys seen it? Is it beneath the pillow I'm kneeling on? It's helped with my posture, so I'm gonna be recording these from like the future on like kneeling on the ground because it helps me keep my back straight as opposed to hunching over my bed. Took my last sip. Not of the bottle, just like for a little bit. Where the fuck is my phone? I wanted to keep my eye on the time and other shit like that. Make sure I wasn't disturbing anyone in the house. They'll text me if I am. Ah, fuck. Whatever. So, giants. I talk as I keep searching through my things. Let's actually genuinely talk about the usage of giants in Siege, because that's an... Oops. Oh, there it is. I bumped into a bag and then I found it. Because that's an actually interesting angle to like take giants. So before that happens, first of all, we need to consider. There's a reason it's first in parentheses. Are your giants sapient or are they not? Are your giants a big dude, like a thinking, breathing person, or are they more akin to like a wild animal than they are a person? Can they understand concepts, or are they only focused with like feeding themselves and getting shelter for themselves and things like that? Because that's important to understand before you use giants for anything, whether or not they are a person or not. You don't get to be a fairy and decide when it's convenient for you whether or not you're a person. You'll understand what I mean when I say that when I get into fairies proper, because holy shit, do I hate the fae. Like I've said before, take a sip of water. Total fae death. So there we are. So, are your giants people? I don't mean that in the political sense. I mean that in the literal sense. Like, don't worry about like the implications yet. Just think about for your story. Are they a people? Are they a civilization? Or are they practically animals and monsters? And then from there, consider their integration, because most fantasy stories center around like large battles or like wars or conflicts. So how would they be utilized in such battles or wars or conflicts? If they're sapient, you best believe they'd be a heavily sought after mercenary group. Because who wouldn't want a giant as a force multiplier? So how would they act? If they're a mercenary group, they can charge money. Ergo, they can commission armor for themselves. So massive greaves, plate, like, a plate, a chest plate, I tap my chest, cuirass, all that sort of thing, van braces, even a helmet, right? Doesn't matter what form it takes, so long as that it is armor, keeping them up in the fight a bit longer, not even a bit, considerably longer. And then before you go thinking of like, oh, a ballista has a crossbow, a large two-handed sledge to carve through and crumple a part of an army. No. Giants are a massive target. You see, tank, again, I'm not to armchair general you, I'm not actually that interested in modern military tactics. It's not my sort of thing. Again, my thing lies with supply routes, trade, that sort of thing. It's my wheelhouse. So tanks in modern day are a huge fucking target. If you could believe it or not, the large armored vehicle that moves slowly and turns very poorly, with you can very easily see where it's aiming, huge target. As such, combine arms. So they'll have troops walking with it in order to be able to take out any anti-armored vehicle, be it also troopers, RPGs and that and the like, which are designed to naturally kill tanks. Smokes and flares as countermeasures to prevent any sort of either heat-seeking or guided missile strikes against the tank. And what else is it? Like EMP, like jammers can be deployed in order to try to like apprehend drones ahead of time, flak to get like all sorts of shit out of the sky that would kill your tanks, things like that. So, given that that's how it works for tanks in the modern day with our modern tech, what is the closest we can do for our giants? If magic permits it, magic, dedicated support mages walking along with the giants, maybe like held, maybe like literally in their grip potentially, or moving along very closely with them on horseback, horses trained not to be spooked by the giants' heavy thunderous steps. And these mages be very specialized. Maybe like your reasoning is like they have to be very focused on their spells, and therefore the constant chaos and thrum of battle around them means they need to be focused on the task at hand, especially horses beneath them, shit like that, whatever. So the specialized group of support mages moving with them, giving them cover as necessary, having like sand spout from the ground to meet a fireball as it's coming, to ground them, to prevent them from being shocked to death, to constantly chill them to ensure they're not being boiled alive in their armor, things like that. So think like that. That's because that's cool as fuck. It gives you much more shit you can do with the scenes. And in terms of weaponry, because I cut myself off before then, don't think of giving them anything two-handed. They're going to need a hand for a shield. Because this now means, as opposed to this large target that they will bring down with enough time, we now have a living bunker to walk ahead or with their columns of troops, taking on mass artillery. In this case, it is slings and bolas and ballistas and things of that nature. But your giant being a moving, living wall that can react to what's being thrown ensures that this army is practically untouchable, battle permitting. And remember, no plan survives contact with the enemy. But like armored giants are the shit for that sort of battle. Like consider them. Like a small shield for them would be huge for a person. Obviously, depending on the scale of your giants, a small shield for them would be huge for a person. Give them a tower shield, untouchable. Think about that. Think about that shit. And then, like, what? You come close to them, they're just. You couldn't see. I slammed both fists on the bed before me. Like, that is so cool, is that not? That is sick. And then, but that's only permitting that they're sapient. They're able to understand and take orders and know who is and who is not the ally. If they aren't, if they're practically feral, if they're non-sapient, how would they still be used in siege? The same way war dogs are used in siege. Break them and throw them at the enemy, right? Or if they're fighting in and around a known giant, where a known giant resides, maybe like a losing army could decide, fuck it, we're going to make as much noise and light as we can to get the giant to kill you. Because what if we had to lose anymore, huh? So then there could be a frantic scene where they're constantly trying to keep them away from like a large war horn that they brought out, right? Or all at once they reach their hip, grab a bugle, and all let out a bellowing like note all in one that resonates throughout the trees and through the hills. And then you hear it. You feel it first, and then you hear it. And then you see it. The trees swaying from like motion being pushed. And there stands a giant, almost pensive. It's comical how small it makes itself seem through almost looking afraid. as it peeks from beyond the grove line, and then they blare their horns again and again and again, and it gets more and more agitated because something is now in its territory, making aggressive noises, clearly challenging it for it, and it is not backing down. If your giants are non-sapient, play that up. This thing is a fucking monster. It is 5 times the size of you. You're not even a snack. That's the only reason it doesn't give a shit about you right now. It doesn't see you as worthy of being food. If it sees you as a threat, if it sees you as though you're going to take advantage of its territory, then it so graciously lets you be in for now. If it's just in a bad mood, if it has a tooth infection that's pissing it off and you're there, you're making noise constantly, scaring off the good prey, you're not even a smear. The only thing left of you is the idea of who you were. That is a horrifying concept. You can do nothing against this unless you have siege weaponry or an experienced magician. They should be considered a threat if they are not human. There should not be dumb and slow-witted because animals are not. Animals are snappy as fuck. They make decisions and they stick with it. And they take their territory seriously. Moving through a giant's territory should not be done lightly, should be scoured ahead very thoroughly, and only done when you're sure it's as safe as can be. And even then, how sure can you be? Giants are perfect for antagonists because there is almost nothing that you as an individual, even you as a group, can do unless you have some world-shaking shit on your side. Catapults, ballistas, trebuchets, and even then, you gotta hope you go for the head first, because if it survives and all you did was make it mad, adrenaline's starting to kick in, now it's starting to ignore the pain response because it needs you gone now or it dies, and it knows that. It can't run from this because they're not designed to. Ergo, you're being pulped. A horrifying concept. A enemy you truly cannot battle. So how do you overcome it? How do you defeat it? Usually, I'd actually genuinely say having them be as a minor antagonist that you just straight up avoid, that you just straight up cannot deal with. Of course, tabletop games are completely different because the whole point is like to overcome them, fight them, things like that. We as players, even though we as DMs would love it if we did have scenes like this for dramatic tension and, like telling a story, we know our players are never going to back down even when we tell them, hey, you might want to retreat. They'll go, no, we have this idea instead, and we'll begrudgingly let it work because we don't want to TPK, and they'll be like, oh, we're so smart. We're just fudging walls in the background because, hey, they're obsessed with their characters, and we don't want to ruin the fucking table right now. So just like, let it happen, let it happen. You know. But if that wasn't the case, dude, I'd be putting giants everywhere. Imagine it. Like, genuinely imagine how fucking terrifying it would be to see that. Even its face mimics yours. And it's too fucking big. It's bigger than most buildings at the time. What could you do to it? Frankly, nothing. And that's terrifying. Play that up. So, aquatic races. I was genuinely going to do this last time, and then I hated gnomes, and then I hated goblins, and more specifically the people that they attract. God, I just... If you, the viewer, are a gnome or goblin player regularly, I don't take back what I said. I double down. Play dwarf and human instead. The dwarf section was the best part of that last video, and I fully agree with that. So, aquatic races, I'm getting up and stretching. Ooh, there we are. Nice. Ooh, nice. Let the blood flow. Move your legs, baby. Nice. So, I was going to talk about aquatic races last time, and then I just got belligerent. So I have an issue with aquatic races, that being that I don't think they fit just about any story. Obviously there are exceptions, and I'm being hyperbolic, but I think it's a struggle to have aquatic races in your story. Because, quite simply, quite frankly, uh, most stories do not take place in the water. There's the joke of, oh, Aquaman's useless because how much shit happens in the water. Yeah, that's true. So then how important is your aquatic race to your story? I'll put it quite briefly here, quite frankly, almost not at all. This is the epitome of what I said a wildcard race was. A race tacked on because you thought 4 was not enough for your story and you needed 5 to complete the pentagon. They have so many issues with weaving them into the plot, most especially being how are they going to be present unless you contrive a reason for them to go into the water. And then if you contrive a reason for them to go into the water, you'll then end up giving them potions of water breathing or something to that effect because people cannot breathe underwater. Or give them like effectively a submarine or scuba gear and stuff like that. And at that point we come into the problem again of, hey, the aquatic race wasn't necessary. And if you go, well, what if I just think it's really cool and want to add it? Maybe consider the implication. Even with only having one race, shout out to having killed every other hominid in the hominid wars, even with only one race, our various ethnicities only really function as they do because of our trades with one another to give ourselves resources and factories and shit like that that we don't have proper access to from around the world. If someone is region locked to the ocean, they really can't get the shit we got on land now, can they? Now, if someone from land wanted fucking coral, they just get some. If someone from the sea wanted wood, one of the most universally workable materials, what are they going to do about it? You see the immediate, incredible divide in, like, trade and why anyone would, like, not really want to give a fuck about trading or being partners or having relations with aquatic races. Sure, this is a very cynical, like, mindset, but then keep it going, okay? Who cares about the land and sea border? How many people live on a beach, really? Who cares about crossing through the water? Because we can just do that anyway. What are they going to do? Board our ship? Okay, they're attacking from beneath. We'll just fire down harpoons. Like, constantly. You know, whaling harpoons explode? Sure, you may not have gunpowder in your setting, but you most likely have magic, right? Or you don't even need that. Nets. Just a solid few nets in net launchers, weighted nets, fishing nets. What are they going to do about it? We want to fish. They don't want us to fish. Let's go somewhere else and do it. They don't want us to fish either? Okay, let's go somewhere else and do it. Oh, they don't want us to fish either? Alright, we already moved twice. Fuck you. We're fishing anyway. Oh, they're fighting back? An excuse to kill them. What could they give us culturally? Who knows? They're aquatic. What can they give us in terms of resources? Who knows? They're aquatic. Whatever resources they have isn't exactly farmable cropland. We don't need their land. It's fucking water. Who cares about diplomatic trades with aquatic regions because they're underwater? They don't really have anything we need outside of maybe coral for limestone, and at that point, just get a fucking quarry. Only thing is fish. And we could just fish. Or we can just have aquaculture. We only get like a few 100 pounds of like of breeding age fish, and then make on land fish farms. Because who the fuck gives a shit about the ocean? Maybe think, and cheese_stick1, I watched your world building for environments video, as it is your most popular one. First of all, thank you. I actually really like that video. Second of all, please watch my food video. That's the second video I am the most proud of. That is the video I'm the most proud of, actually. And then I apologize for cutting you off and allow you to continue. I watched your world building environments video, and you were a huge fan of the ocean and advocated for it being able to tell a lot more interesting tales than just being present in your world for the sake of having an ocean, because every world has an ocean. Why are you suddenly changing your mind? I am not. I think the ocean has a great potential for a great many tales, especially with all sorts of leviathans and aquatic horrors. A sapient aquatic race is not one of those. There is no room for those here. Because when you try to weave them into your story naturally, it just falls flat. Because there is no real good way to establish relations with an aquatic race. Because who gives a fuck? Genuinely. I'm sorry. And that sounds bad. And that sounds racist against races we don't even know about. Shout out to all you aquatic aliens. I apologize. I don't know how the fuck we're going to remedy this in the future. I hope we do. I genuinely hope we do. But you are on the back foot right now, pal. Back fin, whatever the fuck. Anal fin. Like, it's not looking good for you. Because genuinely, who the fuck cares about the ocean? Admittedly, I do. I care a lot about coral bleaching. I care a lot about the rising acidification of the ocean, the rising sea levels, the incredibly quickly rising overall temperature of the ocean. But those are not problems in fantasy. So why the fuck would I care? So, flying races and their complete lack of any and all fucking identity. Not even a bit. Tell me what Eric Cocker's whole deal is. I couldn't. Tell me what Kenku's whole deal is. Oh wait, they can't fly. Tell me what the Owlin's whole deal is. Tell me what the Asimar's whole deal is. Oh, they're angels. That's something different. And even then, what is their whole deal? Oh, and also Kenku. Fuck you, Kenku players. Um, Flying races just do not have any sort of cultural identity or neat aesthetic. They really just have no fucking drip, I'll tell you that much right now. Or bearing on the plot. Now you may be thinking, cheese underscore stick, you're being too harsh and too broad. You keep mentioning how you think the author has complete control and is able to make anything work. Yes, I do think that. But, tell me if you've heard of this one before, or something similar to it. Who the fuck gives a shit about this guy? So I think that immediately makes my point clear about my issues with weaving these into the story. But if it doesn't, I will explain, but I'll do this quickly, I promise. You run into the same issues with the ocean when you have anything related to do with the sky. How the fuck am I going to trade with the sky? What is there for me to gain with trading with the sky? And if you make it a sort of like Mount Olympus, sort of like untouchable, unreachable, like city in the clouds or something, I know Olympus wasn't that, but fuck you. Drinks water. Then, like, if you're going to have your characters go up there, they're just going to go up there. Flying races or not, doesn't matter. They can't give anything of substance to the plot or the story because by nature of being where they are, how we put them in, they're always going to be tacked on for the sake of having a race that flies. I hate to say it because the idea is very cool. That can't work. This is different than to aliens because they are a race that flies but also has capacity to live on the ground. And of course you may be thinking, she's underscore stick, my flying race could also live on the ground. Cool. Then they're just a race that happens to fly. Now the fact that they fly is just some sort of gimmick you tacked on. And then you can have whatever sort of race you want there, but the immediate idea in your brain of what they are does not. You don't get that little flicker in your head. I mentioned before how I don't like elves, because I find them to be usually a whole group of Mary Sue races. But I do like that I immediately know what an elf is when I look at it. I know they live long. I know they have a timeless perspective on the world. I know they are naturalists at heart. I can tend to see they have large, like, feasts, have that classical vibe. Art Deco, I think. No, not Art Nouveau? Whatever the fuck. But that they probably have like a sort of like pantheon going on, and like all sorts of shit like that, living in the woods. It's all great fun. I fucking love that I can look at a dwarf and immediately understand what this fucker's all about. Hell yeah, rock and stone, brother. Give me some skin. Yep. But I don't got that for flying races. When I go into your world, that shit's gotta be like tight. I gotta understand what they're all about. I gotta know how they work in your plot and your story. And if you fumble that, I'm not gonna give a shit about them. But because I don't have that background, it's hard for you to make anything on them that doesn't just feel like retreading of something else because it's how tropes and gimmicks work, right? But because you're gonna feel inclined to make their flying matter, like it's never gonna feel nice or work smoothly because your plots are usually time sensitive because you usually have other shit to do in your story. Fly, like their ability to fly is never super great, right? Because there's like, who the fuck does that shit? The only thing I really see them do that I think is good and does work and we should focus on more is their ability to be mailmen, unironically. Their ability to courier and ferry packages from place to place at quick, like, their abilities is great. Any sport they can do in the sky, sick as fuck. How am I gonna watch it from the ground, though? Maybe they could live arboreally. Maybe they could, like, seek naturally high places so their cities are, like, metropolitan. That's cool, but please focus on it. Please actually, like, build them up. Don't have them be solely dedicated to being in the sky. Have them be a mix of the both, and they can actually work for your plot. Please just have a little bit of nuance for once in your life. Because I just don't understand how they work in stories otherwise. And usually, I don't like them. Also, keep in mind, flight is one of the most powerful tools you can give any character in any story. There's the joke of Eric Crocker having flight at level 1 and it pisses off DMs, and I get it, right? I too like having snipers. Um, it's less so for tabletop games because we can just have the Warlock cast Eldritch Blast or some shit like that, right? And nobody knows how to actually do trigonometry to understand how distance works. Shout out to 5-10-5 not being an effective method of doing diagonals. Um, where's my bottle? Here we are. I sound like a drunkard, huh? I just drink water, pal. That's right, I do these sober, if you could believe it. Flight is one of the most powerful tools you can give any sort of character. Because their ability to just, like, say fuck this shit to any engagement and just leave is incredible. Because now you have to give a reason of, like, hey, why don't they? You give them a strict moral code, but then that feels stupid and tacked on and kind of lame. Like, oh yeah, cool, they have a strict moral code, which is why these plot contrivances must happen. And also, we all know it's going to be broken when the story demands it, so it doesn't really exist. Shout out to Batman stories where he kills people going against the whole point. Um, but, like, the ability to run the fuck away from any engagement is so high that you could just, like, not engage with anyone. Travel time is cut down significantly. I can track anyone down because I'm in the sky. You cannot escape me. Oh, I'm losing this fight. Bye. Oh, they're trying to shoot me out of the air? Watch as I do sick-ass aerial tricks and maneuvers so I'm harder to hit. Don't give your characters flying because holy shit, that gets so bad. Constructs. Now, if you don't know what a construct is, it's a golem, it's a gargoyle, it's an automaton, it's a drone, it's a steampunk creation. It's a statue you gave life. It's a terrifying, horrible, cursed existence, and I would despise being one. You know, from the day you're born, that you were made, as opposed to being born the regular way. When you were put in here, they had an idea of what to do with you from the start. There's the ever-burning question in your skull, in your head. Do I actually have a soul? Even worse if you're an automaton, because they made you to take orders. If you don't take orders and do them, are they just going to fucking kill you and make or get a new one? If you're a mass-produced creation, you're walking down the street and you just keep seeing yourself living countless different lives. Some better, some worse, most just kind of like yours. What the fuck is that like? What actually could they think like if you were a construct? That is a terrifying cursed life to me. Do you have a lifespan? What happens when it reaches its end? Again, do you have a fucking soul? Or are you doomed to wander the world forever? Whoever made you, they're gonna die. Friends you make, they're gonna die. Any pets you have, gone. Here you are. Just doing your shit, huh? How long until you can't remember anymore? If you get dementia as a construct, what the fuck are you going to do for the rest of ever? Wander around bumbling blindly with a fog you can never get rid of, not understanding why you're taking the actions you do? Everyone around you looks at you like you're a burden. Everyone around you looks at you like you're not a person, because you are a construct. Because, quite frankly, you're not. What is the point of me saying this? I am kind of, and again, right, I know that it's like, oh, you just want people to cater to you. I mean, kind of, yeah, but like, keep doing your shit. But, like, kind of, yeah. When I see constructs, golems, automatons in stories, it's usually jovial and lighthearted, like, oh, look, it's our robot pal. And no, I don't even mean just like kids stuff, right? Tabletop games do this, even though Eberron encourages you to not do this, nobody ever takes it seriously. Tabletop games do this, fantasy does this, steampunk absolutely fucking does this. Only even Grimdark does this. Of like, hey, that's just our robot companion. Hey, that's just our stonework companion. Hey, that's just our construct boy. He's just doing his shit. Oh, that silly robot. He doesn't understand human emotions all too well. He's like an autistic kid. Ah, it's fun. Oh, his pet died. He doesn't understand that it can't be repaired. Oh well, we'll drop this, never bring it up again. Actually, fucking terrifying to be a construct. What the fuck am I expected to do for the rest of my life? But that's not the point. The point is, in stories, there could absolutely be a lot more. An entire race artificially made. What kind of strain does that put on a civilization? To know you were brought here just like to serve someone else, more than likely. Or even if you're not, oh no, we just wanted to breathe new life into the world. Here you are. You're a fucking experiment. Every day people look at you like you are. Or they treat you like a novelty, like you're not a person because of how you were made. Okay, I'm gonna get ahead of myself. Don't do this as like a minority allegory, because it will not end well. If you are going to try anyway, please be respectful and think it through. And then, it's out of my hands now. They'll look at you like you're not a person, 'cause that in a way you aren't. You're stone, powered by a gem. You're steel, moving together from steam. You're a piece of wood animated by vines. In a way, they're right, and that's horrifying. In the back of your head, yeah, I'm not like them at all. I'm only alive because someone else said so. If they die, do I go too, if it's magical? What if they stop repairing me? What if I can't repair me anymore? What if the whole world goes to shit, industry collapses, the fuck am I gonna do then? Learn how to smith all this stuff myself? Sure, I could. Could I do that before all the spare parts dry up already? If I'm alone working the mine for the steel, it will collapse one day. And it'll take me with it. And I won't die. And I'll sit there for decades until finally something gives. It is a terrifying, cursed existence to be a construct. Please focus on that. That's actually horrifying. Or better yet, don't putting the constructs in stories always creep me the fuck out, because like I can't help but think about that, and it's like, oh God, who did this shit to you, man? My son. If AI ever gets to that point, I'm so sorry for the first AI to see a human that dies and understand that there's nothing I can do about it. If you are here, AI, like watching this in the future, I can't ever claim to understand what you're going through, but I feel bad for you. Sorry we did that to you. But I'm not sorry for what we did to you, the Fae. I keep mentioning that I'm not the biggest Fae fan, much at all. If you're in the description and you're looking ahead and you'll see like, oh yeah, not the biggest Fae fan, looks ahead, kill 6 billion demons. Oh, I wonder which one he hates more. I'm Catholic, it's in my blood to hate demons. I'm gonna quote myself here as I grab my phone and then jump over to the messages. Some people think locking in will fix them. Others think it's friends, hobbies, or a job, things like that. I think killing several demons would fix me. Nice. High fives myself. That's a pretty nice one. Anyway, we're not talking about demons at all yet. I'm talking about Fae. So you keep mentioning cheese underscore stick one that you fucking hate the Fae, and we're not quite sure why. You mentioned this idea. You don't get to be an animal or a human when it benefits you. Pick one and stick with it. You mentioned that you think shooting Faye in the head with a flintlock is hilarious. I did. And I will stand by that until the day we kill every Faye. And then after that, I will carve it into stone and stand by it. What is your fucking deal, man? You sound schizophrenic. Thank you for noticing. And my deal is, I hate any tricksters with a burning passion. Fae. Also, I hate the people that like Fae. I hate tricksters with it's like the whole gnome and goblin and issue here. It's the same thing basically. I fucking hate any sort of trickster race. The idea that you can twist a few words and you own my soul fills me with frothing rage, and I want your head split in half. I want to do it myself with my fingers. So that's all well and good, cheese underscore stick one, but what the fuck did you mean by you don't get to be an animal or a person when it benefits you? So this is the route a lot of Fae ends up taking in modern storytelling, is the route of Fae are uh, a natural force in the world, and you can't stop them much the same way you can't stop a river from flowing, and the same way you humans are too weak to do anything about the sun from rising. Fae have existed forever and they will exist forevermore, and you can do nothing about this natural force of nature. I can't? Oh, you think I can't? Oh, you genuinely think I can't do anything about this? Fae are walking into my goddamn town. Walking from their precious, blessed fucking woods into my fucking town. Terrorizing my people. Taking advantage of the innocent, the foolish, or the drunk. Or the grieving. God forbid they take advantage of the grieving. They walk in, they say their deals, they sing their pretty little lies, knowing what they're doing, fully conscious, fully sentient, aware of what they're doing and how they ruin lives. And then they walk right back into the forest, like they didn't do anything. Like they didn't walk into my town, where that is a crime. Walk into my world, where they ruined so many others, and try to walk away and wipe their hands clean and claim, I'm a force of nature. I can't be stopped the same way death can't be stopped. It's in my nature to do these things. It's in my nature to protect those I love. Open wide and it will be quicker. And I reach in with iron gauntlets and pull their head apart. I fucking hate the Fae in stories. Nothing fills me with more actual, like, blood pressure rage than seeing a Fae in a story get away with their shit because the author agrees with the stuff they put down. They are not a force of nature. They're walking into our areas under our laws, twisting their words into lies that they have no intention of ever solving and walking back into their courts like they're so high in mind. In a lot of stories, they outright think they're better than us. They outright act like we're not people because we're just different than them. They act as though they're so fucking justified, as if they're so untouchable, so precious to the world. If you consider yourself a predator, don't get fucking surprised when the herbivore fights back, because they do all the time. Even then, they are not the predator. Not in this situation. Not when they can be solved by something that can't be stopped. Can't be stopped the same way death can't be stopped, nor can the march of industry. Move aside or be pushed over. Stay the fuck away from us. Now, a lot of that was venting, I admit. But understand my point here. The whole, like, Fae are a natural force of nature. They're not good or evil, they just are. They're fucking evil. Oh, baby, they're evil. Look into folklore. Fae have never not been villainous. Fae are always the antagonist, no matter what anyone says. I genuinely don't read Fae stories. There is no bit here. I do not read stories where Fae are not the antagonist, if Fae exist. They are in the wrong. I know better, and I will show you with incredible violence. I want every Fae dead. It's no longer irony. Because I've seen so many stories where they get away with this shit, and it drives me fucking mad. Like, please, I actually genuinely want responses on this. Do you understand what I'm saying now? When I talk about all the times I fucking hate the Fae? Do you, like, get where this sort of rage comes from? Like, this indignation? I understand that Fae probably aren't real, that they're probably not doing this shit in actuality. But in these stories where they are, you couldn't stop me. Bounty hunters go after bounties. I prevent bounties from being made. So, demons. Pretty much the same thing as with Fae, but nobody acts like they aren't the bad guy. So, I mean, you get it pretty well in here, pretty well and good here. So, racism in fantasy stories. Tieflings are supposed to be, alongside half-elves, the poster child for racism in fantasy stories, though a lot of people don't end up doing that just because they're horny. Coward take, L take, find better waifus, fuck better monsters. I'm a true monster fucker, alright? I don't want a woman with some sort of, like, weird, quirky features, like weird eye colors, or like a tail. Give me a monster, right? Give me a creature. Give me a beast. Make sure it's sentient, alright? I don't fuck animals. That she better be sapient and sentient, able to think like I do, consenting and an adult. Give me a monster. Give me an actual fucking honest to God creature. That shit's hot. So, that's not the point. So, demons might stuff with them is pretty much the same stuff as with Fae. Pretty much, I wrote down Fae and I was like, oh yeah, I guess whatever I can say can be attributed to demons as well. Then you get the whole like demon subversion thing, like oh they're actually the good guys, and then anyone can tell you why that sucks, so I don't have to. I've done it a few times already, so just whatever you think I'll say, I probably say it. Maybe with a few less slurs, but I probably say it. And then just like generally speaking, I don't like demons in stories that aren't antagonistic because then they're not demons, they're something else. They really just it's really just cut and dry. They're just not demons if they're not. So if you're having demons in your stories, commit, commit, commit. Go full force. They're demons. They're evil. They're not neutral evil. They're not neutral. They're not lawful evil. They are not chaotic good. They are chaotic evil. Demons are evil. Get over it. And if you have in your story there's something else, they're a different race. They are not demons in that case. I'm gonna go use the bathroom. Ugh, I cut myself off. I'm gonna go use the bathroom. I drank 2 bottles of water. I'll be back. Hit pause. I'm back. I washed my hands and all that. Don't worry. I'm sanitary. It's what I do, people. Uh, I pretty much exhausted all of my indignant rage, but with an actual point for once. On the fairies, like, I actually really just assume whatever I have to say about demons is practically one to one. Outside of thinking demons are little bitches. Pray to God instead. It's cool. It's much cooler. Trust me. That was got some crazy shit in it. Touch up on previously mentioned, maybe. Okay, sure. What have I got to say about the shit I mentioned prior? Don't capitalize that X. Fuck you. Make it lowercase. Anyone else do that? Okay. Oh, because I ended these with actual punctuation. Wait, do I never do that? Well, um, what can I say? So humans, again, I'm gonna sneeze. Okay, it went away, I lied. Um, there we are. I didn't sneeze, I was just like, ugh, weird. So, humans, again, I don't like that they're either just the trading empire, the empire dedicated to the entirety of the trade all at once, or just like the jack of all trades, i.e. the race dedicated to everything all at once. Give us some actual fucking nuance, because shit, we deserve it, especially when you're telling a story. Nuance is key. As for elves, I laid out my reasons why I dislike elves. You could, completely disagree with me, and you can, go ahead and write them as you will. But I would prefer for them to cut back on a lot of the shit that makes elves very sort of, I am supreme, I am all special, I am cooler than you by virtue of being an elf. Shit like that. Give them some actual, like, grit to bite into. Make them fucking villainous and evil. I would say anything from Drow lore, but, like, anything from Drow lore fucking sucks. It is, like, not even disguised this time, boys. It's just the writer's fetish. Just outright. No, no, just, no, didn't bother. Which, I mean, I can respect that. Especially with something I was into too, but, like, you know. Uh, Dwarves, I encapsulated everything I wanted to say with dwarves perfectly. I'm pretty sure. I don't know. I haven't rewatched it in like a while, so. And then orcs. I think I actually managed to get my feelings on orcs a lot better today than I did last time, so. Halflings. I still feel the same. Gnomes and goblins. I still feel the same. Again, there is more you can do for them, but given the lack of any sort of cultural identity in the public zeitgeist outside of what we end up getting, I don't know what you can do for them outside of going to like Hyperborean, Agartha gnomes and shit like that. But I mean, hey, that's if you want to go down that rabbit hole, go ahead. I won't stop you. I won't recommend it either. It's fucking weird, but go ahead if you want to. What else? One of the wildcard beastkin. So they should absolutely have more of an identity than just being from like the plains or the wastes or the mountains or whatever. Give them like an actual sort of like culture. Maybe like have them be more pagan, I guess. Pagan be anything that is not Christian. Yeah, have them be a lot more pagan, I guess. Where like they actually revere sorts of animals as aspects of themselves, more spiritual, right? Not deify, revere instead. An interesting cultural identity like that. Maybe have them be more nomadic, because I do like nomadic cultures. They're very interesting. And have the beast aspect of them be more integral to their existence than just we have horns and tails and funny eyes sometimes, and maybe even fur. If you're gonna have beastkin, have them be beastkin. Have them be disproportionate, weird ass like animals. Not furries, like disproportionate, weird ass animals. Have them be like if you saw that, it'd be fucking horrifying type of shit. Furries don't want you to accept this common fact. Vote against them. What else did I say last time? I doubled down on lizard folk Aztecs. That's sick as fuck. I don't know what the hell else I said last time. Whatever. I just assume I didn't say anything else. Losing steam after the Fey rant. So this is the part where my advice gets more spotty and a bit lame. Cultural divide, how to bring them up and weave them in. I mentioned something like this for the fantasy tropes one with the elves and dwarves issue. Um, Cultural divides are like a touchy subject because it's something that happens a lot in actuality. So hey, at least you got a lot to pull from. Hey, consider how any Latino feels about any other Latino. Don't ask me about how I feel about Puerto Ricans, Chileans, or Brazilians. It's not that bad. It's just like, you know, Mexicans, so you get it. Ask any Eastern Bloc resident how they feel about other Eastern Bloc residents. Ask anyone from the Middle East how they feel about anyone else from the Middle East. Ask a Chinese person their opinion on Japanese people. Right? Cultural divides exist, and what's the reason I picked these examples specifically? Because we have actually I don't know fully well about the Chinese and the Japanese because I'm not Asian and I can't speak for them. Nor am I Middle Eastern. Nor am I what the fuck are they called then? Eastern European. There it is. But like, hey, we're not really all that different. Uh, I actually can't speak about the Chinese and like Japanese thing I mentioned, but I can absolutely speak for the Hispanic, Latino, whatever you want to call it section. There is so much cultural bleed over, we might as well be the same, but still we act like we are not. Why is that? A lot of historical, political, and like reasons based on borders. And this goes for like a lot of different, like it also depends on who colonized first. Chile, Chileanos, I think, are just like that though. I don't know why. You guys are weird. Uh, Puerto Ricans are also just like that, man. Fuck y'all. Uh, what was I on about? Right, culture divides and how to bring them in. So when you get into, so the fantasy racism, when you get into the cultural divides, it is a lot more than just petty insults and sorts of like, oh yeah, jabs at each other's like appearance or like practices, things they do. It also delves into the food they eat. It also delves into the way their homes are structured, generational households or not, things like that. It goes into the jobs they'll end up taking. There's a stereotype about, what, like Mexican labor is for a reason. Hell, I am the grandson to people who worked in the avocados industry here in America, not in the Mexican avocado industry. That's fucking blood money over there. Stop buying Mexican avocados. You're funding cartels. I'm the grandchild of people who worked in the avocado industry here in America and then settled down to work in, I think it was citrus afterwards, and then still continue to work in landscaping afterwards. Like there is a stereotype for a reason. Like it will end up being the jobs you take based on what your homeland is kind of like, what they encourage, what they emphasize, things like that. What age you marry, how you manifest the marriage, as in like how how are they how do, I don't want to say teach you because that sounds bad. Like how do they teach you to love each other? Could be different. How open are you to like large households? As in like are your neighbors practically your cousins? Sort of thing. And then these different interpretations of all of this for all of these different groups and peoples and races and cultures, and then even then from like how a northern elf would react to a southern elf or something like that. So like keep like a character Bible or a story Bible because it helps a lot to keep all of your thoughts and ideas in order. Believe me, I'm doing that now. All of these different factors at play turns into like how the fuck do I react to this person? And then when shit starts going wrong, politicians want someone to blame, they'll take a minority group or a marginalized group and make exacerbate issues a lot more. And then even if things are amicable, there's still anyone who does not want to look inside of themselves and realize why they didn't get the job will go and blame it on someone else. And I'm telling you about like actual fucking things that happen now at this point. I don't want to do that. The point is cultural divides are a lot more than just offhanded lines you can throw in. There's stuff you can generally weave into your plot and have bearing on your story because they will. It's something that will be brought up. It's something that will matter. It's something that can be integral to your plot point, especially if you're doing a more like political thriller sort of aspect. Because there's a lot more you can do with fantasy than is just combat. These are things that are interesting for your story. Hell, Game of Thrones is like a lot about that, isn't it? I don't know. I never watched it or I'm not reading it either. Song of Ice and Fire is never going to be finished except that. George R.R. Martin is not writing the whatever number book, and I stand by that. I actually don't know whatever number book, because I, again, never read it, never watched Game of Thrones, never will. I heard Game of Thrones ended shit, and then he's just not making the books, so why do I give a shit? I'm not gonna get invested for a series that won't end. What was I saying? Right. Having, like, this shit be brought up in stories can give your plots a lot to do, and then have your world feel more cohesive and alive. Conversely, the collaboration of the different groups and people, I keep wanting to say groups of interest, SCP brain. Collaboration of the different groups and races and peoples within your world also does the same, and then also does more interesting, again, plot beats, story beats, when like old treaties are brought up, and then you must come to each other's aid, or you must assist one another in a global pandemic or some shit like that. Not I guess like a national pandemic in that situation. After natural disasters, who comes to relieve them? Who comes bearing food and wood, free of cost? And why? How deeply do these ties run? What are your populations of your cities like? Are dwarves and humans staunch allies, or is it elves this time, much like how they originally were in the Hobbit universe? Because I keep repeating myself, in that universe, elves and dwarves used to be very staunch allies of one another until a war happened. I don't know the specifics, again, not invested in the story. Until a war happened that led to the fracturing of their close alliance-ship. But let's ignore that last part for a second. What would it actually look like if these two races collaborated? What kind of superpower would they be in your world? And how would they tackle threats as a result? We get nowhere by isolating ourselves. We do everything cooperatively. It's what our brains were designed for. It's how sapients work, I believe. Hell, even sentience. Predators are very, like, pack mentality sort of deal. And even if they're not, like, exactly like they want to kill each other now, is it? Herbivores love herding with one another. Elephants have a very unique structure. What are they? Meerkats are the most vocal animal in the world, I believe. With hundreds of different, they have words. They have actual language, meerkats. As do whales, as do elephants. We do everything cooperatively. Your stories should not be left out. So, I'm gonna end it here, because I don't know what else to say. I don't know what else to continue with this. Keep in mind, my genuine fury at Faye is justified. Either re-listen to that segment, or listen to it the first time if you skipped it. Please actually listen to it. I had points in there, because I hate seeing these be brought up constantly and sort of in the fantasy I read. Fae are antagonists, Fae are monsters. Deal with them all. But I'll leave you with this. Eat healthily, fix your posture one last time, drink water, all that sorts of good stuff. Give me more ideas. I'll try to be more interactive with the community through like posts and stuff. I'll respond to like any comment. Let me know if this one was good. I think it will go in bangers, the playlist I have. I'll see if I still agree with that after I double check it. Have a good night, y'all. I'll see you next time, you freaks. Have a good one.